Hey, so today's practice is a yoga flow building up to the Pigeon Pose. So you can begin just coming to lie on your back. We're going to bring the feet together, letting the knees drop wide apart. Hands can be resting on the inner thighs. And you can start to softly close your eyes. Really allowing the weight of the shoulders and the head to be heavy. Letting the weight of the hips sink down. Observing how the breath is feeling today. How your body's feeling today. And we'll just stay here for 10 slow and steady breaths. If for whatever reason it doesn't feel so comfortable to be staying here for 10 breaths with the knees out wide, I'd suggest first seeing if you can experiment with cushions. So bringing maybe cushions under the knees so there's less pressure around the hip. And if that really doesn't feel comfortable, particularly for a slightly longer period of time, you can, of course, always just extend the legs. But this is a really great sort of warm-up for the hips, particularly as we want to allow that area to open as we build up to our Pigeon Pose. So staying here for 3 more breaths. And then you're going to just slowly close the knees. So you're hugging the knees gently into your chest. And we're going to rock up a couple of times back and forth. So you can cross the ankles, use the exhale to rock back, and inhale to rock up. Exhale and inhale. Exhale and inhale. 2 more times. And then the next time you're up, you can just come to a cross-legged position with the right leg out in front. So we're wanting to have the knees kind of a bit away from the hips here. And then you're bringing the hands a little forward and leaning your weight a little forward. If it's comfortable, you could lean a little more forward. So we're just easing the outer hip down here. But do notice if you're leaning so far forward that the hips are kind of leaning, lifting up, try to press the hands down and draw the weight of the hips also down. Staying here 1 more breath. And then slowly inhale, come up, or change to the opposite leg. So left leg is now in front. Again, hips are heavy, hands come in front. You can start maybe with the torso a little more lifted. And then if it's comfortable, you could lean a little bit more forward. Again, pressing hands down to draw the weight of the hips more back. Nice, steady breath. And then inhaling from here, coming all the way back up to sitting again. So from here, we're going to come with the feet about mat width apart. Hands are going to be behind. And we're just going to rock the knees a few times from side to side. So knees can drop to the right, Inhale through the center, exhale to the opposite side. And just doing this a few times. If it doesn't feel comfortable for the knee to drop to the mat, you could have the knee a little higher. And we're just kind of working a little bit on the mobility here around the hip. And then you can slowly from here come back up again. So we're going to come to what I like to call the seated pigeon pose. So this is a great preparation. Just like we did when we were sitting cross-legged, you want to bring your right foot in front, but this time your left leg is coming back. So you're making this S shape with the legs. The weight is very much in your right hip. Doesn't really matter where your left foot is. You could bring it back, or you could have it a bit like mine is on the coming out to the side. And then you're bringing the hands forward, so we're leaning the weight a little bit more to the outside of that right hip. And gazing softly down again. So it's a bit similar to the cross-legged position where we were leaning forward, but you'll probably feel the sensations from the stretch in a slightly different area here. And again, you can kind of see, does it feel comfortable to lean more forward? Or does it feel better for your body to be a little more upright here? Staying here for 2 more breaths. And then we're going to slowly come up, and we're just going to turn to the opposite side. So using that similar sort of position we were doing before, this time we're drawing the weight into the left hip. Right leg comes behind. Again, we're bringing that leg into an S shape. Hands are a little forward of the hips, gaze looking down to your left leg. Again, you can play a little bit with this side, seeing how it feels to lean forward, or if you prefer to be a little bit more upright. Slowing the breath down as it moves through your nose. Staying here 2 more breaths. And then slowly from here, using the inhale to come back up. And then from here, we're going to come onto our backs and hug the knees into the chest. So we're going to come from here to a happy baby. So knees can come a little wider. Feet are coming up. Now hands can either be somewhere around the shins or the calves, or if you've got slightly more open hips or longer arms, you can be holding here the feet. If you are holding the feet or somewhere on the shins, you're trying to use the weight of the hands to drop the knee a little down. And the angle we're looking for is pretty much foot above the knee. But if the hips are a little tighter, it can be quite comfortable maybe to begin with that you're staying with the feet a little more in. So knees out, feet in. And over time, you might work a little bit on bringing the legs a little more out. You could close the eyes here if you like. Seeing if you can press all the way from the lower back to the upper back, back of the neck into the mat. And if you like, you could rock here a little side to side. So either rocking or staying in the middle for 2 more breaths. And then slowly from here, you can release the feet. So knees come back in, feet come flat on the floor. And then we're going to bring the outside of the right foot to rest on the front of the left thigh. So this is a great preparation to do just before the pigeon pose. You can lift that left leg up. With the help of the hands, you can either be holding the belly of that left thigh, so you're kind of with the hands drawing the thigh towards you, or you could reach the shin bone here, and it might depend a little bit on proportions, length of arms or length of the torso. And as you're guiding the left leg a little in, you're trying at the same time to actively draw your right knee a little out. And you might experiment if you rock a little from side to side, how does that affect the sensation in your right hip? So finding a place where that stretch kind of feels not too intense, but there's definitely some sort of sensation there. Staying here, one more breath. And then slowly exhale, release. Both feet come on the floor. And then we'll change sides. So outside of the left foot comes on the right. If you flex the foot, that can just help a little bit more activate through the hip, protect through the knee. And then you're lifting that right foot up so the knee comes in. You can hold belly of the thigh or holding the shin bone here. Seeing how it feels to rock a little, how that might change the stretch if you lean a little to the right or to the left. Staying here for 3 more breaths. Maybe hugging that right knee in on your inhale. And seeing if you can press the left knee out on your exhale. Slowly from here on the exhale, you can release. Hug the knees gently to your chest, and then rocking from here up to a seated position. Now, before we come into our pigeon pose, we're going to just do a little bit of stretching of the hip flexors, since that's also an area that we want to be opening in the pigeon pose. So you can come through the hands and knees, stepping your right foot forward, left toe is untucked, and from here you can bring the hands to the hips, an option if you like to just sink the weight of the hips a little forward. Now up to you, hands could stay on the hips or you could reach the arms up here towards the ceiling. Very much focusing on that sensation in the front of your left hip flexor here. So allowing that area to lengthen, to open. Staying here 2 more breaths. And then exhale, slowly releasing, changing sides. So left foot steps forward here. Hands again could first come to the hips. You can gauge how far your left foot is from the hip. Maybe sink the weight of the hips a little forward. And then if you did on the opposite side, inhaling as you reach up through the arms. And staying here for 3 more breaths. Exhaling from here, lowering the hands down. Now from here, we're coming to our pigeon pose. Now, sometimes when you're approaching this, it can be handy to have a prop. So if you did want to try with a prop or have a prop close by, I'm going to have this bolster If you've got some sort of other cushion, you can use that instead. Now, from the hands and knees, we're bringing our right knee to our right wrist. And the left leg, this time, is extending back. Now, if the hips feel a little tighter and you're noticing that it's difficult to keep the hips squared here, you could just place something under the hips. That can help. The other thing you can play with is the position of your right foot. So you could notice how close is your right foot parallel to the knee. The sort of more you bring your right foot in line with the knee, the more intense that stretch can feel on the hip. If you slide the foot back more in the direction of the left hip, you'll see that I ease a little bit of the stretch off the right hip, and that can feel quite nice to create that space. You can choose for yourself if you want to stay here more upright or if you want to lean back. You might just check your back foot that the toes of your back foot are really leaning back. And then we'll stay here for a few slow and steady breaths. So you can experiment, maybe staying a couple of breaths with the arms a little more long, chest a little more lifted. And if it felt comfortable, you could experiment with dropping the elbows down. So maybe leaning a little more forward. So if you've experimented a bit with props and this position still feels uncomfortable, particularly if it's uncomfortable in the knee, feel free to come back to one of the previous positions. So maybe bending that left leg and being more upright, or maybe choosing to be on the back again with the outside of the right foot against the left leg. Staying here for one more breath. And then you can shift the weight into the right hip. Extend the legs a moment. And we'll just come back with our feet about mat width, hands behind, and take a few shakes of the knees from side to side. Coming from here then over to your hands and knees. So left knee comes towards your left wrist. Right leg starts to extend out. Left hip might feel slightly different, so you might try to see how it feels if you would like to support something under that left hip. If you want to have that left heel pretty close to the right hip, or if you want to experiment with bringing the foot a little higher up. And again, you might start just having a few slow and steady breaths here, being more upright. And then you could just experiment again of how it feels to lean a little forward. Staying here 3 more breaths. And then weights can come into your left hip, shifting forward, extending through the legs, and coming to rest on your back in Savasana. You can close the eyes, let the body be heavy. And just taking a moment to notice where your mind is right now. Bringing awareness back to your body. And you can be slowly wiggling your fingers, wiggling through your toes. And then if you like, arms are reaching up and over the head, stretching gently away from the legs. And from here, rolling over onto one side. And coming back up to a seated position. So thanks for joining me today for this yoga flow focused around the Pigeon Pose. Hope your hips are feeling nice and open here. You'll find if you practice this more regularly, you'll start to really notice more space being created in length through these stretches around the outer hip and hip flexor. So curious to hear how you find the Pigeon Pose. Do let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to build a bit more of a structured yoga practice at home, do check out my home yoga guide with tips on how you can start to establish and set up a home yoga routine. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye.